All right, so we are doing section 5.1 today. It's all about congruence and triangles. Like I said, the schedule for the week's kind of up in the air depending on what days I am here and not here. But as far as I know, the schedule is how it appears on the board. So a couple days of notes and then a day of review. Jumping right into vocabulary, write both of these down. The first one is corresponding parts. It's sides and angles that are the same and congruent figures. And congruent are the parts of the figure that have the exact same measure. So we're going to look at congruent figures, mostly congruent triangles. To be congruent, all the parts have to match, and we call those the corresponding parts. So like the angles that are the same are corresponding. The sides that are the same are corresponding. And remember from last semester, congruent means the same measure. So this is exactly what I was saying on the last slide. So if all the parts are congruent, then the two triangles are congruent. And those parts that are congruent, like we learned on the last slide, we call those corresponding. So in this example, like angle A and J would be corresponding. Angle C and angle R would be corresponding. And angle B and angle K would be corresponding. And then those sides, AC, JR, CB, and RK. Now, there is one thing that's super duper duper important about this, and it's the order that you tell me that they're congruent. So if you want to tell me that the two triangles are congruent, you can use the triangle symbol. And then the first one, let's just go in regular order, ABC. If you do triangle ABC, you have to do the next triangle in the same order. So do you see how like A and J are corresponding? So if you start with A, you have to start with J. And then you went down to B, so you have to go down to K.
Wait.
And then you went that way, so you have to go that way. So C and R.
Wait.
So the parts that are the same have to be in the same order.
So what's the letters on the other side? That's a triangle?
Yeah, so that's just saying that this triangle, ABC, is the same, is congruent to JKR.
Oh, okay.
So the important thing is just that the corresponding parts are in the same order. Like if you start with A on this one, you have to start with J on this one. Then B is second. Well, B and K are the same, so K also has to be second. C is last. C and R are the same, so R has to be last. We'll practice that a lot, but that's the gist of it. So the directions say to identify all the corresponding parts. When you are identifying all the corresponding parts, you should have 6 answers. It's a lot, okay? The reason you have so many answers is because every single triangle has 3 angles and 3 sides. So you have 6 parts of this triangle that match with 6 parts of this triangle. So I'm just going to start on the angle that's labeled with 1 arc mark. So angle N would be corresponding with which angle? N matches with which one from the other triangle? R. So angle N is congruent to angle R. That's 1. Anyone see another one?
L.
Angle L is congruent to angle P. Good. Angle M is congruent to angle Q. Those are the easier ones. I think the angles are easier than the sides because usually you can get away with just 1 letter. Remember, sides, though, we use 2 letters. Shh. So angle, or side, excuse me. Which side do you want to start with? It doesn't. Okay, so LM. So side LM or segment LM. Now, this one order does matter. See how we started with L that has 2 marks? You need to start with the same letter over here. Shh, girls. Okay, so we're going to start with P
Why you ain't go see him?
and go down to, what's this segment?
P.
P, Q. Good.
I feel like I'm
Okay. So we went L, M. We'll just go around the triangle. So M, N. So segment M, N would be congruent to
QR.
Q, R. Good. And then the last one, I'll just continue around. So N, L. I'll write it the way I said it. N, L is congruent to RP. Good. So again, if it says list all the corresponding parts, you should have 6 answers. It's a lot. You can handle it. You can just write the answers with me on this one. You don't need to draw these triangles. Example 2 says, in this figure, triangle ABC, so I'm going to trace it, ABC is congruent to triangle KLM. So order matters. A and K, those angles are going to be congruent because they're both first. See how B and L are both in the middle? That means that those two are going to be corresponding. And then C and M are both last. So those would be corresponding. So you kind of have to like flip this one to make this one. You see what I mean? So the corresponding parts are congruent. We know from last semester congruent means the same. So if I want to find the length of KM, I have to match it to the corresponding side in the other triangle. So KM, the first letter and the third letter, would match with which one? A and C? Do I know the length of AC? 45. So KM will also be 45. That's part A. Part B asks me to find the measure of angle B. So the measure of angle B is in the middle here. So it would be corresponding with the middle letter on the second triangle. So angle L, do I know the measure of angle L? 108. Good. What are your questions?
This definitely so good.
Mm-hmm. Are we good?
We had an extra day. Everybody started school this year.
All right, here's example 3. Just like on example 1, we're just going to list all the corresponding parts. Again, just like on the last one, you don't really need to draw these. Just practice writing them with me. This one's a little different because if you try to line it up, you have to like almost like spin that one to line up with that one. If you try to visualize it, like the U and the Z are the same. So you have to like flip it and turn it. So let's try to list the corresponding parts. So I'll give you the part from this one. You give me the part from this one, okay? So which angle is corresponding with angle U?
Z.
Angle Z, good. What's corresponding with angle S?
Y.
Angle Y, good. And what is corresponding with angle T?
X.
Angle X, good. Perfect. Anyone have any questions? All right, now we can do the sides. So I'll start at the right angle and go to the angle labeled with 2 arc marks. So start at the right angle, go this way. So ST is congruent to what?
YZ.
Y.
X.
Yeah, it's the one labeled with 1 or the angle labeled with, you can go by angles or by the way the side's labeled. So yeah, so it's the other way. That's why you gotta be careful, you kind of like flip it. All right, then I'll just keep going around. So TU. So TU would be XZ, good. And then the last one would be back down. So US. All right, over here, US. So U to S would be ZY. Good.
Does it really matter?
Depends who's. I usually am not super picky about that, but most geometry teachers are. So yes, order does matter. 4 is just like 2. You're given 2 congruent triangles. You can sort of check it out ahead of time. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. So you can sort of see that one flips on top of the other one to line up the corresponding parts. We're trying to find the length of DF. So what do you think the length of DF is going to be?
3.
Yeah, it's going to match with AC, which is 3. So DF equals 3. And then we have angle E matches with the one we're looking for, angle B. So what's the measure of angle B? 28 degrees. Good.
What was exactly 30?
The one we listed the corresponding parts. If you missed it, it's not a huge deal. Just like example 1. Summary for today. What did we learn about? Yes, we always write the first sentence at the end of the note. So today we learned, Jeremy, what did you learn about today?
I'm nervous here. That's why.
You just learned we're failing to have homework, yes? What were our notes about?
Congruence and triangles.
Congruent triangles, perfect.
What you thought I had to load?